and that's fine. I mean, I'll give you another example. I know last week, even before this Trinidad game, Don Garber was asked, I forget where, he was asked what player, if he could sign any player in the world right now, who would he sign? And he said Pulisic. He didn't even say Messi. He didn't say Ronaldo. He said Pulisic. And you can't tell me that bringing Pulisic over at MLS, let's say he came right now, or let's say he came next summer, you could not tell me that would be in the best interest of the U.S. national team. Pulisic, it would be great for MLS marketing. He would be all over. He'd be the face of the league for who knows how many years. Maybe he'd be the next Landon Donovan in terms of just staying here his whole career and just being the face of the league. But that would not be good for the national team. And again, this is where there's different interests in both parties. So both parties can do what's in their best interest, and they don't have to share opinions or not be critical of one another. It's okay to be critical of one another. That raises conversation. That brings up topics. When you're not critical, when you hide the truth or don't speak what you really think, then that leads to issues. So I think there's an over reliance on with both parties.
No, Franco, I do agree with you that I think MLS should do what's in its best interest, and the US should do what's in its best interest as well. And when Jurgen came out and said those comments, I initially didn't really think it was that bad, that big of a comment. But I mean, I guess other people took it otherwise, and Garber had to, come back, and they went back and forth and whatnot. I think MLS needs to grow on its own. I mean, MLS has its own issues, and the U.S. national team has their own issues. Now, I mean, you want your domestic league to be strong, and you want it to produce talent, but It's interesting because, Steven, I know when you remember, when we asked Jared Miklas, the guy who oversees all the academies, about whether the academy system was for the national team or for the clubs, what did he say? He said it was for the clubs, and it was to produce players within the for the league that are quality for the league, not for the national team. Steven, what did you think of that? I remember you had like a really interesting take on what he said.
You're putting me on the spot. I don't remember, but I think it's a weird dynamic because if you develop players for the club, and I think this one when we had coach high school coach Fred Kaiser on, he kind of alluded to this too. It's this weird dynamic where, okay, are we building players for the national team, but then you're funded by the federation. But then the player, because it was this weird commitment, and then if the players aren't committed to the national team and they're getting investment from the federation, what's the point of the federation putting money into that rather than putting that money into the growing U.S. soccer as a whole? But then you can argue, well, the money is going to the players, which is actually growing U.S. soccer, because you look at Atlanta United, Alderone, he's linked with, I think, Arsenal, and I think Inter Milan for somewhere around 15 to 20 mil. That would be a huge statement. And then James Rodriguez, rumored to come to MLS at age 26, Golden Boot,
long shot
at 2014, long shot. But it's this weird dynamic, and I think MLS and U.S. soccer need to have a real sit down with each other and be like, how are we going to work side and side, but yet have the interest of ourselves at the top, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah, I agree. I mean, I agree again. I think these discussions will be had. They should be had. We have to hope that they'll be had, and I imagine that they will. And not just MLS and U.S. soccer, just the whole thing. Pay to play, like you mentioned before. Everything's going to most likely be touched on, and dissected, and hopefully we'll see serious changes because U.S. soccer needs it. I mean, it doesn't just hurt U.S. national team. It doesn't just hurt U.S. soccer that they won't be at the World Cup next summer. And MLS loses out too. So it's bad for both ends. It's bad for almost anybody that's involved or that watches soccer that the U.S. is not making it. So I expect changes. We should hope that there will be changes, and that will take time though. So we'll see what happens.
Now, Franco, I just want to thank you for joining us on the show. And on our show, what we do is we do a little shameless plug where you can tell us where we can find your work, where we can find you on Twitter, Facebook, all that good stuff. So go ahead, tell us where we can find your work and where we can find you.
Yeah, I freelance for MLSsoccer.com. I write regularly for AmericanSoccerNow.com. My Twitter is at Franco Panizo. Keep it pretty simple for people to follow. And occasionally I'll do some stuff for 442, or I just kind of freelance in the soccer world. I just did a story on Osvaldo Alonso for the Seattle Sounders magazine that they put out monthly. So, but most of the time you can find me at MLSsoccer.com and American Soccer Now.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Franco. I hope to talk to you down the road.
All right, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, Arman, I got to continue his thought here, Franco's thought about this partnership with MLS and U.S. Soccer. And I think it's crucial that they have a partnership, because if they're not on the same wavelength, on the same page, then it's a disaster for both ends.
The thing is, are they on the same page? I mean, they're not. I mean, from what we heard from Miklas, from all these other people, I mean, they're always not on the same page. And you think they should be on the same page? I think there needs, like you said, there needs to be a sit down between the two sides and be like, here's our role, here's your role, that's it, done, boom. Like, it's just, there needs to be like some sort of discussion when it comes to.
But what's the role with Bundesliga in Germany? What's the role with Serie A in Italy? That's something we should look at. I mean, I don't have the answer at the top of my head, but I think there is a dynamic. For example, the Chinese Super League. Yeah, China has absolutely no national team, but they make a point of emphasis. The
foreign restrictions, yeah.
Yes, and England even has that. Or UEFA puts that on its Champions League squad, where you do have to have some sort of domestic amount of players and homegrown and this weird thing.
Well, the MLS has that too. That's the thing. MLS has it. There's only 9 or 10 international spots, and there's a really big emphasis on homegrowns and whatnot. It's just, I think it's a matter of the whole academy system, and whether, like you said, for producing players for the U.S. national team. I think it's a really key issue that when we talked to Fred Kaiser, he really hit home. Are we producing teams for the national team, or are we producing teams for clubs? Because if it's for the clubs, why is the USSF funding it?
Yeah,
which makes total sense. I agree with that 100%. I mean, it's a really interesting take, because it's such a. Are they separate or are they together? Like, we don't know. I mean, with Bruce Arena and MLS, they seem like they're more together. You saw the amount of MLS players he called up. He had a good relationship with MLS.
To me.
Yeah, but with Jurgen didn't like that.
No, and somebody, I don't remember who, but somebody made that statement. Was it Jermaine Jones that said, yeah, look at the amount of European players under Bob Bradley?
Yeah, it was Jermaine Jones.
But here's another interesting question, is the issue of young American players going abroad, like, for example, Sargent, going abroad early. But then you have like an Kellen Acosta who gets brought up to the academy.
MLS.
You know?
Yeah, and I mean, you saw the story, from Jermaine Jones and about Jordan Morris. But now, the thing is, I don't think Jordan Morris's thing was staying at Seattle. I think it was his college career. I mean, I understand if you want to stay in college and enjoy it and all that good stuff. But if you want to take your career seriously as a soccer player,
Europe. You go challenge yourself in Europe.
Or you sign with MLS maybe at 18.
Yeah.
Because he could have. He was playing national team friendlies as a player at Stanford.
Yeah.
And I think he could have easily maybe signed with the Sounders as a homegrown deal.
Yeah.
Or if he could have gone to Werder Bremen. I mean, that's my thing. I don't think it was much of choosing between those two. I think it was the amount of time he spent in college. And I do have a gripe against the college system. I know, Steven, you do too. And I know a lot of people are.
Well, you do. I mean, you have a huge gripe.
Yeah, I mean, I went and I've seen college games and TV. I've seen it. I understand. For some players, I wouldn't actually watch one. For some players, it's really good. For some players to get the education, it's really good. But mainly a lot. It's unbelievable. I mean, if you want to look at FC Dallas, for example, one of the better teams, their 2016 draft class None of the players are on a team. None. So they get most of their players through the academy. Should there be a draft? Should it be? It's a complete mess. I mean, if we want to talk about it now, we can, or we can save it for another show. I don't really care.
We'll save it for another show because we got to move on.
I mean,
but you make a great point. With the college kids coming out, they're coming out way too late. The college game kills their development.
It's a culture issue. Like I mentioned,
and then
we think a player is a rookie at 24, but in the rest of the world, he's getting lots of first team minutes.
James Rodriguez is 26. His career he's on the verge of becoming older and not worth the money because he's 26. You know, yes, he still has a lot of value. But one other point, Arman, and I think we have to question the competitiveness of MLS on a week in and week out consistency. Yes, level play is growing. The amount of talent is growing. We see that.
So it's the regular season value.
It's the value of picking up points when it's needed, because that's what killed the U.S. is then the fact they could not grind out a result against Trinidad and Tobago. Just think about that. And that's a discussion for a whole nother day. But I know promotion relegation's coming back up. There's a huge back and forth on Twitter, Reddit, and all the social media platforms. But we're going to transition into MLS playoffs. It's time.
Yep. Now we're going to talk some MLS playoffs. Joining us is Dan Crooke. He writes with me at thirddegree.net, a blog that covers FC Dallas for the Dallas Morning News, and also is a contributor for MLSsoccer.com. Dan, how are you doing today? I know you're watching the game, so how you feeling?
Depressed after the game, but thanks for having me on.
Yeah, I feel like it's a lot of depression this week if you're an Arsenal supporter or a U.S. supporter or FC Dallas supporter, just depression all around. So it happens to be I'm all three. Anyway,
all three. Just the trifecta.
Yeah, just the trifecta. And add the Swiss factor to it. It's just, I don't know, 12 feet under. But MLS playoffs, you excited?
Depends how next week goes.
Yeah, I mean, tonight for our viewers who aren't in the loop, Dallas lost to Seattle. Well, got shell-shocked by Seattle 4-0, and San Jose drew with Vancouver. And based on the wins tiebreaker, Dallas is now currently looking on the outside, looking into the playoffs. Dan, what do you make from the game? I mean, we were texting a little bit about it, but I mean, it just didn't look like Dallas played with urgency?
None at all. I mean, the first goal, Matt Hedges just kind of switches off, looks around, and then suddenly Rodriguez is through on goal. Second goal, Jesse Gonzalez has to hold on to a really, a routine stop. Third again, Matty just wasn't his night. Ball kind of ricochets to him, seems to hit both of his legs, and he doesn't react to it at all. Again, it goes to Rodriguez. Eventually lays it off to Bruin. Even the fourth. Guerreso's literally got two hands on who had the fourth. It was Lamar Nagel, the FC Dallas killer.
Yep.
Had two hands on him, staring him in the eyes. Maybe he wanted to hug him or something. I'm not too sure. But he just stood there and watched Nagel jump over him.
Yeah.
It was almost like they quit at the 30th minute.
Is there an issue in the clubhouse with this club?
Nothing obvious. I mean, there's the Walker Zimmerman situation. He says he's fit. It's been a while since he was injured. He's obviously been in the team. Oscar's hesitant to play him. There's something going on there. Kind of like how there was with Mo Hernandez the year before. When he kind of fell out of love and That was it.
Wasn't it, Armand, wasn't it Jeff Reuter